You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Welcome to Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. Each week, we'll take a deep dive into the world of volatility with in-depth analysis, trading activity reviews, strategy breakdowns, cutting-edge education, and much more. We'll also bring you exclusive conversations with the traders, researchers, and asset managers who are reshaping the volatility landscape. If it involves volatility, then you'll find it on Volatility Views. Volatility Views is brought to you by MIAX, one of the fastest options platforms in the world. MIAX is now trading options on the SPIKES Volatility Index, offering pinpoint accuracy, radically faster dissemination, and a highly transparent settlement auction for confident trading, all for competitive exchange fees. It's time to make a change and give yourself an edge with SPIKES. Learn more about SPIKES at www.miaxoptions.com/spikes. Options involve risk and are not suitable for all investors. The statements made are provided for informational purposes only and should not be relied on for financial or legal advice. Volatility Views is also brought to you by Matrix Executions, LLC, an agency broker-dealer focused on best execution and trading workflow automation. A technology-driven firm, Matrix is led by trading pioneers with decades of experience designing and building best-in-class solutions for options markets. Matrix connects to all domestic exchange venues and multiple international exchanges and serves both institutional and individual clients. For more information on Matrix Executions, LLC, please visit matrixexecutions.com. And now, it's time to take a deep dive into the world of volatility. It's time for Volatility Views.
All right, everybody. By now, you know what we're up to here. It's the holidays, giving our cohorts and co-hosts here a bit of a break so they could celebrate with their close, hopefully, relations, not distant relations here during the year that is COVID. But of course, it is time to break down the top 5 hottest episodes of Volatility Views for 2020. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the ever-exciting, at least we hope so, Options Insider Radio Network. Before we get started, I just want to thank everyone out there who continue to make the network just such a destination for options traders this year. It really was just unprecedented on just about every level. We want to thank everyone out there who listened on demand, who downloaded our app, who joined the live streams throughout the year, who sent in questions and comments, who reviewed and rated us on all the various platforms, and we've added many new ones even this year. So it's pretty much available everywhere these days. So we just want to take a moment to thank all of you guys. Without you guys, really, there is no network. So we want to thank you all. And certainly it was a strong year for Volatility Views as well. Looking at the numbers here, and we've been crunching a lot of numbers behind the scenes, and I can't recall another year where so many episodes of Volatility Views, which was started really as a show for a very niche, a very targeted audience of professional volatility traders nearly a decade ago. It has really grown and certainly is resonating with a very, very strong and large audience these days. I can't recall another time where so many episodes of Volatility Views were in the top 10 for our overall network as well, which really speaks to the year that was 2020 and how much volatility was on everyone's minds, even Joe Retail out there and even your proverbial grandmother from Iowa. They all wanted to know what was going on with volatility this year. So fascinating stuff. But without further ado, let's break it down. Let's kick it off here. Let's start with your number 5 overall most popular, hottest, most downloaded, most streamed episode of Volatility Views for the dumpster fire of a year that was 2020. It was Volatility Views 411, also known as Election Volatility, Worth It or Waste of Time. I was joined on that episode by the Rock Lobster, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi, as well as Tom Jark, the Volatility Product Specialist over there at MyX. That was recorded on August 21st of this year, so late summer, getting into the dog days there, but we were already talking about the just insane amount of juice that was getting bid into the far portion of the VIX futures term structure. We debated whether that bid was warranted or whether it was going to be a slam dunk fade going into or perhaps coming out of the election, and also what happens if the election is disputed. Will this vol carry through into January? A lot of good stuff to sink our teeth into on that episode, and you guys clearly enjoyed it. By the way, to set the table out there, it was a green end to the week on that episode. Spikes was at about 23.15, VIX Cash at about 22.5, and VVIX at about 114. We also had some earnings on the docket from NVIDIA, Baba, and Best Buy. All right, and coming in at number 4 on your top 5 lists of Volatility Views for 2020 is episode 406, Earnings Volatility Preview. I think you can guess who was on that show with me. That was Mr. Meatball, a.k.a. Mark Sebastian from Option Pit, as well as our earnings volatility guru, Mr. Matt Amberson from ORATS. We discussed Netflix earnings. We discussed Bank of America, a whole bunch more. Matt said on that show, by the way, the show released on July 10th of this year. Matt said, I've seen a lot of the market, but I've never seen anything like the volatility performance in the last earnings season. If you owned options last cycle, you just lost money. And that's pretty much been par for the course for the entire year when it comes to buying volatility going into earnings. If you own vol, you probably were a loser until this last cycle, where things really seemed to be evening out a little bit. It was a strange end to the week. We had some good news out of Gilead in terms of their trials there. Spikes was at a 28.5. It was down 5.5 points, so that shows you how elevated and rich we were there in the middle of summer. VIX Cash is at 27.5. It was down 6.5 points from our last show. VVIX was still hovering around that 112 level. We also talked about dividend cuts and how that was impacting or perhaps not impacting the amount of volatility we were seeing out of earnings season, and also took a meaty bite into retail call to put ratio. Not a topic we talk about often on the show. So that was your number 4 episode 406 from July 10th. All right, continuing our countdown of the top 5 episodes of Volatility Views. Coming in at number 3, we have Volatility Views episode 407, Juicy Inversions and Gaping Chasms. We have some good titles on these ones. That came out shortly after our last episode there from July 24th. That was me and the Greasy Meatball flying a duo ship there on that episode. Meatball on that show said, the current massive chasm between VIX Cash and the VIX futures poses a massive headwind for future volatility ETPs. We also discussed on that show kind of a drum that the Meatball has been beating a lot this year. It was a study out of Goldman Sachs. At the first time ever, the derivatives market is more liquid and popular than the underlying stock market itself. We also talked about the proliferation of weekly options and how that's driven a lot of adoption on the retail front, and how the fact that single stock options with maturities less than 2 weeks now comprise 75% of all maturities, up from 65% a year ago. Spikes on that show is at about 27 even. That puts it up about 2 handles from the previous show. VIX Cash almost at a 27, 26.9, up about 2/3 of a point. And VVIX just shy of 120, 119.7, up about 5 handles on the show. We also talked about some earnings vol in Intel, Microsoft, eBay, and Google on that episode. All right, coming into the top 2 here. Number 2 is Volatility Views episode 412, Volatility Whack-A-Mole. That was released on August 28th of this year. It was with the Mr. Greasy Meatball as well as Jim Carroll from Toroso Advisors. That was hot on the heel of the Fed washing its hands effectively of inflation. So a lot of debate on that show about what that meant for the market and for volatility going forward. Were they just going to let their foot off the brakes and let the market go hot and heavy? What would that mean for inflation-oriented assets? A lot to debate on that show. Jim Carroll came in as well saying, what the hell is going on with VIX? Is it a volcano waiting to erupt, or is this a whack-a-mole moment? Spikes on that show is at about 24.5, up about almost 1.5 points from the previous show. VIX Cash also exactly at 24.5, a weird little bit of synchronization between those two, up about 2.25 points on the last show. VVIX at about 117, so staying at that elevated level it's been at for most of the year, up about 3 points from the last show. We also saw some weird prints in the VIX options, and we broke down some of the hot trades, and of course VIX, as well as spikes and VXX and UVXY, as well as the story that I guess you could say was the stock story of the year, which was the Apple and Tesla stock splits and how much new volume they threw into the market, as well as how much they drove that upside. That was all on the docket there for episode 2 of our top 5. And now that means drum roll, please, out there, producer. All right, that's better. All right, here we go. Your number 1 episode of Volatility Views, the hottest, the biggest, the most downloaded, the most streamed episode of Volatility Views for the entire year of madness that was 2020. It was Volatility Views 413, Unprecedented Volatility. And it came out on September 4th of this year. It featured myself as well as the Greasy Meatball and good old Mr. Shelley Brown from MyX. Now, that was another one where the markets were firmly in the red on that show to end the week. Mark said on that show, if we close up in the VIX today, that will be 10 straight days of VIX futures closing up. That is effectively unprecedented, and it certainly was. You remember that time, listeners. A little bit of a dubious streak. A little bit of a break for the bulls out there. At the time, Spikes was at 32 3/4, VIX Cash 31 3/4, both of them up firmly from the previous week. Spikes was up over 8 points, and VIX was up over 7 points from the previous week. VVIX still around that 120 level, a little bit north of about 124.5, up 7 points from the week before. We talked about how MyX was blowing the doors off in August from an equity options perspective. Of course, breaking down the options activity in all of our favorites like VIX and Spikes and VXX and UVXY, and of course the Apple and Tesla stock split making it in there, as well as some discussion. Remember the old SoftBank whale? We talked about that on the show out there as well. So a lot to unpack for your number 1 episode of Volatility Views, episode 413. All right, that's going to do it for this countdown of your top 5 episodes. Again, I want to thank everyone out there who took the time to listen to us, to subscribe to us, to tune into our live streams, to send in questions, and to vote and to rate our content across all the different platforms. I've said it before, I'll say it again, we have the best audience in the world, and that audience just grew even larger this year. So we're thankful for all of you. Hope you guys are staying safe, staying sane out there. And we'll be back with more hot, new, fresh content for you Vol Views lovers out there very soon.
Volatility Views is brought to you by MyX, one of the fastest options platforms in the world. MyX is now trading options on the Spikes Volatility Index, offering pinpoint accuracy, radically faster dissemination, and a highly transparent settlement auction for confident trading, all for competitive exchange fees. It's time to make a change and give yourself an edge with Spikes. Learn more about Spikes at www.myxoptions.com/spikes. Options involve risk and are not suitable for all investors. The statements made are provided for informational purposes only and should not be relied on for financial or legal advice. Volatility Views is also brought to you by Matrix Executions, LLC, an agency broker-dealer focused on best execution and trading workflow automation. A technology-driven firm, Matrix is led by trading pioneers with decades of experience designing and building best-in-class solutions for options markets. Matrix connects to all domestic exchange venues and multiple international exchanges and serves both institutional and individual clients. For more information on Matrix Executions LLC, please visit matrixexecutions.com. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.